Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial as reported by Inner City Press. Few trials capture the public's attention like the one unfolding against Sean Diddy Combs, a figure who built an empire on music, style, and power. But behind the glitz and glamour lies a story far darker than most imagined. A story told through explosive testimonies that reveal a side of Diddy the world rarely sees. This isn't just about allegations. It's about control, abuse, and secrets kept behind closed doors. What you're about to hear paints a complicated portrait of fame's cost and the chilling truth that fame often masks. On the morning of March 5, 2016, Israel Flores, a seasoned hotel security officer and a reservist with the Los Angeles Police Department, was quietly wrapping up his routine patrol duties when an urgent call pulled him to the 6th floor of the Intercontinental Hotel near Century City. What seemed like a routine disturbance soon spiraled into an unsettling encounter that would later become a pivotal piece of testimony in one of the most closely watched trials of the decade. Flores, who also worked for Securitas, was no stranger to handling high-profile clients and delicate situations, but nothing in his career prepared him for the scene he encountered that day. Upon arrival, he found the usually pristine 6th floor far from calm. Broken vases scattered across the polished marble floor hinted at a recent altercation. Raised voices echoed faintly down the corridor, carrying a tension that immediately set Flores on high alert. As he stepped into the suite, his eyes locked onto a striking yet disconcerting sight. Sean Combs, referred to in court documents and testimony under that name, stood clad only in a towel and light-colored socks. His expression was unreadable but intense. Nearby, Cassie Ventura lay on the floor, her position vulnerable, her face a mix of shock and distress. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension, and Flores felt the weight of something far more serious than a typical hotel disturbance. Flores's testimony painted a vivid picture of the moments that followed. He described how Combs appeared agitated but controlled, while Ventura's demeanor suggested a desperate desire to exit the situation. When Flores attempted to intervene, the dynamics became immediately complicated. Combs, in a surprising move, pulled out a stack of money, quietly offering it to Flores as a bribe to keep the incident off the books. Flores's refusal was firm and clear. He made it known that hotel policies and justice were not for sale. Meanwhile, Ventura expressed her wish to leave the premises, clutching her phone and personal belongings. However, Combs reportedly blocked her attempts, insisting she stay, uttering words that Flores testified sounded like veiled threats. This interaction underscored a troubling power imbalance, where Flores felt he was witnessing more than a simple disagreement. It was a tense standoff laced with intimidation. Adding to the complexity was the presence of a mysterious man standing near the doorway, described by Flores as nearly 7 feet tall. This imposing figure acted as Ventura's driver but remained silent throughout the encounter. Flores emphasized that his communication was directly with Ventura, disregarding the driver's interjections. This detail raised questions about the involvement of outside parties and the degree of control exerted over Ventura during that volatile moment. Flores's account did not end with his immediate actions. As part of his security duties, he recorded videos of the incident using his personal phone. These recordings captured not only the physical surroundings but also subtle nuances, the tension in Combs's posture, Ventura's distress, and the aftermath of the broken vase incident. Initially, Flores kept these videos for personal reference, even sharing them with his wife to illustrate the surreal nature of what he had witnessed. However, what followed cast a shadow of suspicion over the entire event. Flores later discovered that the hotel's official security footage, which should have documented the incident in detail, had mysteriously vanished from the system. When questioned in court, Flores was unable to account for the missing videos, raising the possibility of deliberate tampering or concealment of evidence. His testimony sparked a cascade of questions. Who had the authority to delete the footage? Was there an effort to suppress incriminating material? How reliable was the official record if key evidence was missing? These unanswered questions added a layer of intrigue and suspicion to the case, fueling speculation about what might have been hidden behind closed doors. Flores's report, which followed hotel protocol by detailing the 5 Ws, who, what, when, where, and why, was scrutinized heavily during cross-examination. Notably, he admitted to omitting certain details, such as Combs's exact words telling Ventura she was not leaving, reasoning at the time they seemed insignificant. This admission raised eyebrows and questions about the completeness and reliability of official documentation. Despite the defense's attempts to downplay the incident as a minor hotel dispute, Flores's testimony laid bare a moment fraught with power struggles, intimidation, and the ominous undercurrent of control. His vivid descriptions and first-hand account gave the courtroom a rare glimpse into an explosive confrontation that, for those involved, was anything anything but ordinary. What happened that day at the Intercontinental was not just a simple hotel scuffle. It was a window into a larger, more disturbing pattern of behavior that would soon unravel in the courtroom, piece by painful piece. But as critical as Flores's testimony was, it was just the beginning of a story that would shock even the most seasoned observers. The courtroom was gripped by the testimony of a male dancer, whose account unveiled the chilling underworld of the so-called freak-off parties, bizarre, highly controlled, and disturbing gatherings allegedly orchestrated by Sean Combs. What emerged from his story was far from any typical celebrity party. It was a structured, secretive, and coercive environment where power, manipulation, and excess collided. According to the dancer's testimony, these events were not spontaneous celebrations but meticulously arranged affairs involving multiple escorts and explicit directives from Combs himself. They took place in luxury hotel suites and private residences, often described as spaces outfitted with striking red couches, dim lighting, and an array of lubricants and other adult supplies carefully laid out, elements that transformed the rooms into theatrical stages for fulfilling the host's twisted demands. The dancer recounted moments when role-play was introduced, with Combs encouraging participants to act out scripted scenarios, such as pretending to meet at an airport or adopting specific personas. While some may have viewed these as eccentric party games, for those involved, these role-plays were extensions of a controlling environment that blurred lines between consent and command. Substance abuse was a rampant and critical component of these gatherings. The dancer described the widespread use of drugs such as Molly, MDMA, ecstasy, and Special K, ketamine, substances known for their mind-altering effects. These drugs served dual purposes. They numbed physical and emotional pain, making the grueling hours more bearable, and also acted as tools of control, dulling resistance and fostering compliance among participants. Hours of waiting were common, with the dancer often left idle and anxious, unsure of when or if he would be called upon to perform. The pressure to comply was constant, and refusal carried unspoken but clear consequences. He described moments of verbal abuse, slapping, shouting, and intimidation, which underscored the fragile balance between temporary indulgence and coercion. The men and women involved were caught in an unrelenting cycle of expectation and fear. This environment cultivated a terrifying atmosphere where personal boundaries were routinely violated and autonomy was severely compromised. The dancer's vivid recollections revealed how the line between voluntary participation and forced submission became dangerously blurred, leaving lasting psychological scars. His story also touched on the complicity and complicating factors involving security and staff, who often enforced the rules and helped maintain the secrecy surrounding these events. Escorts were carefully vetted and instructed on how to behave, including how to avoid law enforcement or public exposure. The dancer spoke of fake business names and cover stories designed to mask the true nature of the parties, a sophisticated system of deception that shielded the gatherings from scrutiny. What had started for the dancer as a lucrative gig quickly morphed into a harrowing experience, one marked by exhaustion, degradation, and a sense of entrapment. Despite the money and occasional glimmers of camaraderie, the emotional toll was profound. He admitted to feelings of confusion, shame, and helplessness, emotions common in victims of coercive control and exploitation. The dancer's testimony pulled back the curtain on a world few outsiders had ever glimpsed, exposing the dark interplay of fame, power, and control lurking behind closed doors. This glimpse into the freak-off parties revealed more than mere excess. It showed a calculated system where human dignity was repeatedly compromised for the amusement and satisfaction of one man. His words echoed broader patterns found in similar high-profile abuse cases, where victims and witnesses speak of carefully constructed environments designed to disempower and isolate. The dancer's account, therefore, not only illuminated this specific case but also contributed to a larger conversation about exploitation, consent, and the abuse of power in the entertainment industry. This testimony sent shockwaves through the courtroom, exposing a secret underworld where party lines were crossed and personal freedoms were eroded under the guise of celebrity privilege. It was a sobering reminder that behind the velvet ropes and flashing cameras, dark realities often remain hidden until brave voices break the silence. At the emotional core of this trial was Cassie Ventura, whose testimony peeled back layers of silence to reveal a harrowing decade spent in a relationship marred by control, fear, and trauma. Cassie's words painted a vivid, wrenching portrait of a life caught between love for a powerful man and the crushing reality of abuse that few outside their circle could ever fathom. From the outset, Cassie made it clear that her relationship with Sean Combs was complex, one where affection and violence were entangled in a cycle that repeatedly broke her spirit, yet somehow bound her to him. She spoke candidly about the physical abuse she endured, black eyes that she tried to hide from the public, being dragged across rooms, and moments when she felt completely powerless. But the violence was not only physical. Psychological torment stalked every corner of her life. Cassie described instances where Combs's moods would shift without warning, plunging from charm to fury in seconds. These mood swings kept her walking on eggshells, fearful of triggering an outburst. The testimony detailed how Combs's staff would monitor her, restrict her communication, and confiscate her belongings, efforts that isolated her and made escape feel impossible. One of the darkest and most disturbing elements Cassie revealed was the ordeal of the so-called freakoff parties. These were explicit gatherings orchestrated by Combs, involving multiple escorts and drug use, where she was coerced into degrading situations that stripped away her agency. Testimony indicated that during these sessions, she was often heavily drugged, a state that left her unable to object or refuse participation. The psychological toll was devastating. Cassie's account captured the agonizing emotional push and pull, a fierce loyalty and lingering love for Combs mingled with fear, shame, and a desperate longing for freedom. This duality is common in abusive relationships, where victims cling to hope and affection even as they endure harm. In court, Cassie's testimony was bolstered by a trove of evidence: grainy videos, thousands of text messages, and photographs that documented a narrative of control and exploitation. Texts showed moments of tenderness but were juxtaposed starkly against messages of command, threat, and manipulation. Videos, some recorded surreptitiously, depicted scenes that underscored the abuse hidden beneath the surface glamour. Despite these revelations, Sean Combs maintained a polished public image for years, a successful mogul, music icon, and philanthropist. This dissonance between public persona and private reality spotlighted a sobering truth about celebrity culture: how fame can cloak even the most troubling behavior in layers of denial and disbelief. Cassie's testimony not only gave voice to her own suffering, but served as a beacon for many who have endured similar hidden abuses, especially those entangled with influential figures. Her courage in speaking openly about pain and survival challenged the culture of silence and stigma surrounding intimate partner violence in high-profile relationships. Throughout the trial, she recounted the gradual erosion of her self-confidence, the fear instilled by constant surveillance, and the heavy burden of secrecy imposed by the people around her. She described moments when she tried to push back, to say no, only to be met with increased violence or threats, a terrifying reinforcement of control. Importantly, Cassie also highlighted the pattern of addiction and enabling that colored the relationship. Both she and Combs reportedly struggled with substance abuse, including opiates and party drugs, which deepened the dysfunction and blurred the lines between consent and coercion. This dynamic complicated her ability to leave and seek help. Her testimony revealed how deeply enmeshed power, addiction, and manipulation can be, where the victim's identity and autonomy are slowly stripped away, replaced by fear and compliance. As the courtroom listened, the human cost behind the headlines became undeniable. Cassie was no longer just a name in the tabloid pages. She was a person whose life was profoundly shaped by trauma, yet who was reclaiming her voice through courage and resilience. This section of the trial was a turning point, a stark reminder that behind every glamorous public image, there can be a hidden story of survival. Cassie's words laid bare the harsh realities that so many endure in silence, bringing a message of awareness and hope to anyone watching. In a trial where words alone could have seemed abstract or contested, the introduction of physical evidence transformed the proceedings into a tangible confrontation with reality. The courtroom was flooded with items meticulously cataloged and presented by government agents, items that spoke louder than testimonies, weaving a concrete narrative of control, abuse, and intimidation. Among the most emblematic pieces of evidence were numerous bottles of baby oil and lubricants, confiscated from multiple locations linked to Sean Combs. Far from benign toiletries, these items became potent symbols of the disturbing freak-off sessions described by witnesses. Their presence in such abundance, coupled with the testimonies about their role in degrading party rituals, painted a picture of calculated preparation for acts that were not only explicit but coercive in nature. Alongside these, drug paraphernalia was seized: syringes, pill bottles, and unlabeled containers. Some were linked to substances like MDMA, ketamine, and various opiates, consistent with witness accounts describing widespread drug use during these parties. Toxicology reports and lab analyses were referenced, demonstrating the presence of illicit substances on site. The drug's role was crucial, serving as both facilitators of compliance and instruments of psychological manipulation. Adding a further layer of gravity, investigators uncovered large sums of cash, stacks of bills neatly organized and hidden within designer bags. The government argued that these funds were used to finance the extensive network of escorts and to keep the operations under wraps, reinforcing a systemic pattern of hush money and bribery that extended beyond isolated incidents. Perhaps the most damning evidence came from seized electronic devices: smartphones, laptops, external drives, and thumb drives containing hundreds of explicit videos, photographs, and digital communications. These devices bore the footprints of a vast digital archive of abuse, videos that chronicled the freak-off parties, private moments of control, and communications reflecting manipulation, coercion, and threats. Special agents provided detailed accounts of their investigative process, describing how the devices were obtained legally through warrants, carefully handled to preserve data integrity, and subjected to forensic analysis. They explained the challenges of recovering deleted files, uncovering hidden folders, and decrypting password-protected data, revealing a sophisticated effort by those involved to conceal their actions. Government experts illustrated how the recovered communications were part of an orchestrated system of intimidation. Text messages showed threats to release private videos, coercion to participate in degrading acts, and commands enforcing silence. This digital evidence corroborated the testimonies and underpinned the prosecution's argument that Combs operated not just as a celebrity figurehead, but as the architect of a calculated scheme to dominate and silence. The defense vehemently challenged the admissibility of this evidence, raising concerns about privacy violations and questioning the chain of custody. They argued that some materials were taken out of context or were obtained through overbroad warrants. However, the judge consistently ruled that the probative value of the evidence outweighed these objections, allowing the jury to consider this tangible proof alongside witness accounts. Importantly, the physical evidence served to dismantle the facade of glamour and power that often surrounds celebrity cases. It provided a stark, unfiltered glimpse behind the scenes, exposing a reality where opulence and excess masked exploitation and control. The courtroom was forced to confront the costs hidden beneath velvet ropes, the emotional devastation, the systemic abuse, and the relentless exertion of power over vulnerable individuals. Moreover, the government investigation highlighted the complexity of prosecuting cases involving high-profile figures. The layering of physical evidence with digital forensic work underscored the importance of meticulous law enforcement efforts to piece together scattered clues and break through attempts at concealment. This evidence trail was a testament to the persistence of investigators who navigated a labyrinth of deception, privilege, and secrecy to ensure that justice moved beyond rumors and allegations into a domain governed by facts. The courtroom's presentation of this physical proof sent a resounding message that no amount of fame or fortune can shield individuals from accountability. Through the interplay of physical artifacts and digital footprints, the government's case was firmly grounded in reality, turning whispered accusations into documented fact and bringing the full weight of the law to bear on a narrative that had long been shrouded in silence. While the trial unfolded behind closed doors, its ripple effects spread throughout the entertainment industry. Sean Combs, once a towering figure in music and business, saw his legacy questioned and his career face unprecedented scrutiny. Cassie Ventura's own career suffered immensely, albums shelved, opportunities lost, and a personal journey marked by trauma and resilience. Industry insiders whispered, fans speculated, and social media buzzed with rumors and theories. This case exposed how fame can shield abusers, allowing them to maintain power while victims suffer in silence. It also showed the toll such allegations take, not only legally but emotionally and professionally, reshaping how the public views celebrity culture. Despite the exhaustive testimonies and volumes of evidence, many questions remain unanswered. What other witnesses might step forward? Are there still hidden recordings or messages yet to be revealed? How will the final verdict affect not just those directly involved but the broader culture that enabled such behavior? Rumors swirl about additional parties, undisclosed participants, and possible plea deals behind the scenes. Speculation about Combs' next moves, legal strategies, and public relations responses continues to fuel intense debate. The trial is far from over, and as more details emerge, the story promises to evolve, keeping everyone watching, questioning, and waiting for justice to unfold. This trial is more than a legal proceeding. It's a cautionary tale about the dark undercurrents of fame and power. Behind the flashy image of success lies a web of control, abuse, and silence. For every glamorous photo or hit record, there may be hidden stories of pain and survival. This case challenges us to look beyond the surface, to question the price of celebrity, and to consider what justice truly means in a world where power often shields the guilty. What do you think about the revelations so far? Could fame be a cover for darker truths? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.